Good evening, everybody. I'm so happy to be here again with you, and I'm gonna sing a couple of songs, preparing our environment for our night, for our speaker tonight to listen a little bit and learn a little bit about the gospel according to Spiritism. So everybody is welcome. Love in action. Oh Jesus, here I am. Just say on the floor to say thank you, my Lord, for the life that come through this door. Your love is the key to change the entire world. Using these chains wisely, we will live in peace and harmony. Now I understand, helping others is helping myself. Your words now I saw crystal clear. Your teachings have no frontiers. To see all this transformation, we just have to put love in action. Now I understand, helping others is helping myself. Your words now are so crystal clear. Your teachings have no frontiers. To see all these transformations, we just have to put love in action. Vibrate. When life lends a hand, it's time to open up your heart. It's time to love one another. It's time to take part. Vibrate always, loving and serving everyone. Vibrate loving and serving everyone. When we give our heart in charity, our lives are transforming into song. Our dreams become reality, and we join Jesus for eternity. Vibrate always, loving and serving everyone. Vibrate always, loving and serving everyone. When we give our heart in charity, our lives are transforming into songs. Our dreams become reality, and we join Jesus for eternity.
Wherever you are, glowing seeds of love, as our Master Jesus taught. You will see that behind every sight there's a flame shining bright, tiny spark created by God. I will follow your path, Father, 'cause nobody's alone in life, and the scars of my destiny will be healed by your love. Disseminate wherever you are, glowing seeds of love, as our Master Jesus taught. As our Master Jesus taught.
Another day, another flower, another minute past the hour. Someday the sky is blue, and suddenly we can't see through. And every day is a fresh new start, When the sun turns off the moonlight, we get another chance to choose the road we want to cruise. And on the other side of the mountain, there's always a whole new road, a new beginning calling after every end. There are a million reasons to pick you up after every fall. It's always a win in the new round. On the other side of the mountain, there's always a whole new road, and a new beginning calling after every end. And there are a million reasons to pick you up after every fall. It's always a win in the new round. It's always a win in the new round. It's always a win in the new round. It's always a win in the new round.
When I go in to pray, I look for my good Jesus. And when I close my eyes, I can feel all His light. I open my heart for all He has to say. He shows me the best way I can enjoy my life. Jesus, Jesus, they never we apart. Please bring all your light to shine inside my heart. Jesus, Jesus, I can be content. I have your endless love and your protecting hand.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our public meeting. We thank everyone for joining us tonight. Before we start, we would like to share a couple of announcements. We ask you to turn your phone notification off and find a quiet place during this time if possible. Our meeting will have a 30-minute presentation followed by Q&A. After the presentation, we will also have a spiritual treatment with passes and magnetized water. So we invite you to set aside a container with water to be magnetized. We would like to announce that our public meeting is being retransmitted today by Continental Concafros Americas through their Facebook and will also be retransmitted every Wednesday at 8 p.m. East by Kardec Radio through their Facebook and YouTube. And now we have a special invitation for those who want to learn more about Spiritism. Get to Know Spiritism is a free and online course that happens every Saturday at 5:15 p.m. East. New classes will be starting on fall, and more information will be given soon, so stay tuned if you are interested. We offer now virtual live gospel at home. Did you know that? The gospel at home is an effective support for you and your family's spiritual harmony. We will motivate and guide you in establishing and maintaining the gospel at home study meetings. By posting in the chat, you can request it. So please let us know. You are also welcome to include you or someone else's name on the list of positive vibrations, incarnate or discarnate. The person you indicate will be assisted by good spirits to provide healing energy and strengthen goodwill. Please find the link in our chat. And we also would like to let you know about the coming Alta de Souza Fraternal meeting that will happen in Winnipeg, May 20 and 21st. So we are very excited for this event, and we hope that everyone that is interested can attend and enjoy this event and all the talks that we will have. So the main topic, it will be Charity the Way, and other topics will include such as Spiritist Center, family, vices and depression, and the practice of the Alta de Souza Fraternal campaign. So the link for registration is posted in the chat, and you also can use the QR code in the screen to scan and register. We hope to see you there. And now the topic of today's meeting will be true ownership. And this is items 9 and 10 from chapter 16. You cannot serve both God and mammon, which will be facilitated by our sister Anna Oliveira from Alabama, USA. Everyone is welcome to write comments and questions in the chat, and we will address the questions at the end of the talk. And now I would like to invite our tonight's speaker to the opening prayer, but also to invite her to the floor so she can give us all the teachings about these specific topics. Welcome, Anna. Oh, it's muted.
Hi.
Hi, Anna. It's so nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys. So good evening to everybody, on YouTube, Facebook, listening to us later on demand. And very exciting news about your fraternal meeting this weekend. So I hope everybody registers and comes and participates. And now we're going to go on and have our initial prayer, and then we will go on with the talk. So just so that we can focus a little bit more, that we can let go of the thoughts and the feelings that we had and we're feeling right now. If you want, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and bring the image of our Master Jesus into your mind. Lord Jesus, we thank you for the opportunity to be together learning about your gospel. We ask you, Lord, to help us understand your message, to help us live it too. It starts with learning it, but also the ultimate goal is so that we can be living examples of your message And it can happen, just like Paul said, and it will sure happen one day when more of you, Christ, will shine through us and less of ourselves. It's actually what's going to be forthcoming. May God bless our families. May God bless our efforts in the good. May every soul, incarnate or discarnate, that is asking for something, that it's sending a prayer to God, be actually answered, not from the merit that they might have, but according to the law of love, justice, and mercy. Thank you for this opportunity, and may we enjoy this time together and learn together from you, Jesus. And so be it. All right, friends, it's always very, very nice to be with you all. Let me see if I can put my slides in here. I need to maybe share the slides in here. Oh, there we go. All right, so we are going to talk about chapter 16 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. And the title of that chapter, it is not possible to serve both God and mammon. So it is a long chapter. And so I want just to review a little bit. You actually talked about this chapter for a little bit. We're going to have this section today. We're just going to talk about items 9 and 10. And you're still going to continue with this chapter for another, meeting. So like I always say, every time I talk, if you don't like it, if you feel like, oh, that's not very good, hang in there. Don't give up, because next week will be somebody else, somebody better. So as long as you don't give up, things will get better, right? So in the first part of this chapter, Kardec actually uses a lot of parables, right, to talk about this topic. So one of the first ones that he talks about is the salvation of the rich. And I don't know if you remember that, since it was in the beginning of the month, I just thought that why not we just very quickly go through them. So that one is a very interesting one. You remember that young boy that he comes to Jesus and he asks what he needs to do, right, to actually have eternal life. I'm looking in my book right here. I hope you can, I really invite you to read the whole chapter too. So he says, what can I do, to have eternal life? And then Jesus says, well, follow the commandments. He says, well, I've been doing that. And then Jesus says, oh yeah, so if you're already at that stage, then, leave everything you have and just come and follow me. And then he gets really sad, right? And who cannot relate to that? Because he was very rich and he was not actually ready to take that next step. Then the other parable there, talking about preserving yourself from avarice, right, is that part of the Gospel of Luke, where there was this man who wanted Jesus to actually be like the judge, and tell my brother that he needs to split this inheritance with me. And Jesus is like, what? Like, can you imagine if you had a chance to see the Lord and be right in front of him and you would ask him to do that for you? I mean, that's such a waste of a good opportunity, right? But then Jesus, taking that teaching moment, actually talks about this, this parable, and where this man is doing so well. And he thinks, well, I have all these grains, right? So my harvest is doing really well. What am I going to do? Well, I'm just going to get a new barn and accumulate everything there. And what happens? He dies. And then once he dies, then he lost everything, right? Because he cannot take that with him. And hold on to that thought, because this will be also a theme that we're going to talk about today. It's like, what is really ours, and what is actually something that is so um, valuable that we would take from this life to the next life, or from the material existence we are living right now to the spiritual world, that is the true life, right? That is the only life. We're here just momentarily. There is like our home. What would we take once we go there? And then one of my favorite ones too, I don't know, I might tell you, I'm sitting down, so sometimes you might not know, but I'm kind of short. So I always sympathize with Zacchaeus, right? He's kind of very brave too. He goes up in the tree, even though people don't like him because he's the one who tells them, that they have to pay taxes, and, you know, he's taking the money from them, and that's his job. But he sees Jesus and he's like, okay, I am going to, call him. And Jesus actually sees him over there and says, Zacchaeus, I'm going to be to your house today. And he's like, what? And people are also looking around. And actually, that is a pretty good it's a turning point in Zacchaeus' life. It's when he really sees what he has done wrong, and he says, "Well, I'm going to repay according to the law what I did wrong." And Jesus says, well, the blessings came to salvation came to this house now, right? Because he was lost, and then now, he's because he says, like from here, because the Son of Man, right, Jesus says about himself, has come to seek and to save those who were lost. And then there's also these other parable of the evil rich man, right? So we have this man who is very rich, is eating all of that, and then you have this beggar, I think his name is Lazarus, and he does not even have enough. He's sick, he's hungry, and he just eats the little crumbs that come out of the very, very wealthy table of this guy. But then both of them die. And then, for our surprise, so again, think about this image. This was the situation, right, while incarnate. And when discarnate, then for the surprise of the bad rich man, he is actually in kind of what you consider hell, and Lazarus is actually in a good place. And then he asks, right, that Abraham actually come and tells his family members, kind of like, I didn't hear my lesson, and here it's so hot, and I'm so thirsty, and I'm suffering so much. Go tell my family members to switch their ways. That way they can, not end up in this place like me. But, Abraham tells them, like, if they don't believe the prophets, they don't believe everything that is already there. And that's the case. Sometimes the message is already there, but we don't listen to it. Sometimes, we just have to wait for people. And we know that that's the law. You have opportunities, you have resources to know the truth. But if you just decide to not behave according to the law, the divine law, the law of God, it's just a matter, you're just going to have to face the consequences, right? So it's not like punishment, it's just that each cause has a consequence, right? Each act, develops, a whole circle of events, or a string of events that will definitely come back for you to repair what it was damaged. And then we also have the parable of the talents, right? You remember? And for the longest time, I always really identify too much with that guy. Everybody receives one goes and does something, is industrious and multiplies that talent. But this one was kind of afraid and kind of lazy, so he just hides it, because that way he cannot lose it. So he didn't increase it, but he also didn't lost it. but then the Lord there, the master who gave him the talent, actually does not like that, right? And then it's where we see at the end that says that for those who much were given was given, much will be asked, right? So just really talking to us that if you have talents, right, we it's our responsibility to make them grow, right? That's what is expected of us. So today we are in this section that is the instructions from the spirit. So it's actually messages from the spirits, and for this section, we have one message from Pascal and from a protector spirit, for items 9 and 10. And we'll talk about true property, but the chapter continues, talking about the application of riches, detachment from earthly possessions, and transmission of wealth. So also after the parables, you talked a little bit about the providential utilities of riches. So we saw, right, and the trials of riches and misery and the inequalities of riches. So we earlier in this chapter, there is a very good idea. Sometimes we are wishing to be rich, right, to have material things, but we never think that that can be as a big of a trial, right? It can be a challenge as much as not having enough, right? So if you have a lot, there's a lot of temptations that come with being able to buy anything you want, to go anywhere you want, and things like that. So sometimes we don't think about that, but it's important for us, Christians and Spiritists, to think about that. All right, so now let's go and talk about the items for today, for my task for today. So I wanted to bring this verse from Luke chapter 16, is verse 13, because I think this is the main idea, right, for this chapter. So it says, no servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve both God and mammon. So here Jesus is really telling us, right, you have to see who you follow, what kind of guidance, right, what is the approach that you want to have with your life. You cannot try to do things both way. And remember, Jesus also told us to be very assertive, right? Not violent, never. But not violent or ignorant with other people, not to impose anything, but to not be in the maybe, right? So he's saying here, don't serve two masters. If one master is asking you something that is different from the other, you have to choose a side, right? So he also said, be your yes, and be your no, no. You cannot say that, yeah, my yes is yes sometimes is no. So, it's not very good, to be on the fence. So what did Jesus want us to learn from this lesson, right? Telling us that we should not have two masters. And with all these parables, right, about riches and what it means, and examples of people who misuse riches and what happened to them, right? So I think, what Jesus really wanted to show there, and that's not my original idea, but that's just some other, also, from other spiritists, talkers, like speakers that who have much more experience than I. But that really hit me and touched me when I heard this thing that, the idea at the time of Jesus was really that if you are a godly person, right? So let's say if you're a Christian, you accept Jesus or you accept God, then you had to be somebody who was wealthy, right? So you had to be rich. you had to be prosperous. So not just rich, you had to keep getting richer and richer because you have the favor of God, right? Then you also had to have a long life, and you had to be healthy, right? So if you by mistake, or in any other scenario outside of being rich, prosperous, have a long life and a healthy life, not be accepted, or will be interpreted as someone who does not have the favor of God, or who's not following God's laws. So really, Christ comes and changes that idea, right? Telling us that it's not like that. And if we see the lives of the Christians, we see that they were simple people that lived to serve others, that did not accumulate riches and things like that. So he came to really break down that idea, that idea unfortunately still out there, right? They call sometimes, the gospel of prosperity. So you think that you are exchanging favors with God. So, God, if I love you, or if I follow your commandments, then I have to be rich. Like that younger guy that he was following the commandments and everything, but then when Jesus said, then sell everything you have and follow me, he was not able to separate himself from that idea, because probably, at culturally and at that time, that's what it was thought. So if you are not if something is bad in your life, it is because, God, it's not really happy with you. And we have changed this whole idea, right? And Jesus told us, change this idea that God is not there to punish us, that call him Father, that he's good, he's just, and he's merciful. And the Spiritism comes also to explain to us that it's not like that. That, there, if God is just, there is a justice in the suffering and in all the things that we go through in our lives, right? So when we look more closely to this two sections of the gospel, we're going to talk about true property. So one question that keeps resonating is, what is really mine? What is considered my property? What can I say, okay, this phone is mine? Or what else can I say for sure that is mine? Because the spirits, they start talking, and the message from the first spirit, Pascal, starts saying the only true property that man can own is that which may be taken with him on leaving this world. And we never think about that. We usually think about it like that. What do I have now? That's how I define my true property. But see, here the spirits are asking us to think about it in a different way. Whatever is truly yours is whatever you can take with you once you leave this world. So it starts to keep us thinking, right? This spirit remind us that what is found once we incarnate, when we come to this beautiful blue planet called Earth, and what we leave behind when we depart, when we die, or when we discarnate, it's enjoyed while living here, right? So those things were given to us kind of those are not true true things that we own, but we borrowed, right, for the time that we were here. So the spirit continues in this message saying, therefore, as humanity is forced to abandon all worldly possessions, it can be inferred that it has no real ownership of riches, only their temporary usage, right? So whatever you consider most valuable materially to you, that is not something that you can take, right, with you. That is only something, that a resource you have that you can use temporarily. So what then constitutes true property? This question is in the message itself, but I really wanted us to think about it. What it is really constituted true property? What it's really mine? So I'm Anna. What is really mine? What is my true property? So maybe you're thinking, well, if I have my house is mine, right? It's mine. And remembering I'm here in Alabama in the US, so we have the American dream, right? You have your house, your car, your job, your family. So, but what if a tornado comes? Maybe, and if I don't have insurance, something happens, I might not have that house anymore, right? Also, if the stock market comes down, I lose my job, that house might not be mine. So I cannot really say that that is a true ownership. And then you'll be thinking, okay, so nothing material, but maybe the people that I love, maybe my son or my husband, those are really mine. Are they? Right? Is that the best way to think about them? Well, sometimes they can die, right? And then we feel that void and everything, and we cannot really hold it. And once we discarnate, we are not going to take our house either, or we're going to take our loved ones with us. And the thing with the loved ones too, I mean, sometimes it's a sad thing to think, but sometimes they grow up, right? Kids grow up, they go live their lives, they are going to build their own families. So how can I say that that is mine, right? That we also learn in the gospel that we need to think about our children as children of God, not really mine in that sense. So, you know, hopefully this is clicking and making you think what is really yours, because once we think about that, it can change our whole perception of what is important in life, right? So the message continues saying that nothing which is for the use of the body, but everything which is for the use of the soul, such as intelligence, knowledge, and moral qualities. So in my example, for example, the loved ones, they are not mine, but the respect I have from them, it's is mine. The good that I do to them, that is mine. I can take with me, is part of me, right? So the love that we build, that is mine. But you see, it's something that takes it, it's related to the moral qualities and things more of the soul. So this is what man brings and takes with him, which no one can take away, and which will be far more used in the next world than in the present one. So, in the continuation of life, that's going to be more important than it is right now. So, those are the things that I take with me, right? So, again, what it's really my true ownership, what it's really mine, what are my treasures, right? What are the things of value that it doesn't matter where I go, I can take with me. I cannot take my house, I cannot take a car to every place I go, right? And especially once we discarnate, when we make this passage from this material world to the spiritual world, can you really take those things? What am I valuing and building here that I'm not even gonna be able to use in the afterlife, or that I'm not even gonna be able to actually take with me, right? So the spirit also tell us in this message that it's up to each one of us to be richer on our departure than when we were on the arrival in this world. So remember the talents, the parable of the talents, right? So it is up to us. Are we going to just hid our talents and not do anything so that when we discarnate, okay, we're on the same stage? Or are we going to really work and actively try to produce, 2 times more or 10 times more of what we got here, right? So, and also it's our obligation to be richer in our departure from earth than we arrived, because the future position, right, my situation in the afterlife will depend only on the qualities that I have gained in this present life. So that's why it's so important, right, to live every minute, right, to not anticipate in any measure of time or any shape of form this departure, because any moment is precious, because I can do something different, something better that will impact my next chapter, right, my next life. So he reminds us and puts this idea that if you're traveling, right, you wouldn't put in your luggage everything, right? We all have traveled somewhere, even a small trip or a bigger trip. You have to do some planning. Usually I'm packing last minute, so I just putting everything there and thinking what am I gonna need to use. You can't do much of that anymore because now you pay for an extra bag, right? So you only have one and you carry on, and you have to think. Like if I'm going to Brazil during the summer, if I'm taking jackets and coats, that's not gonna help me because I'm gonna probably fry or melt because it's gonna be too hot, right? So the spirits reminds us that we put in our luggage only things that will be useful in that place, right? So things that you can buy there you will not put, things that are not available there maybe you take it from here there. And the same thing sometimes, like my luggage is also full of things that I can only find there because I want to enjoy those things a little bit more, right? So but is the usefulness, you only have this space, so you have to fill it with things that will help you once you reach there. Not right now, but where you going. So proceed in like manner in relation to your future life and provide yourselves with all that can be of use to you there. So that is the advice that the spirit give us, right? Think about what are you putting in that luggage. Are you putting a lot of things in your luggage that are not going to be helpful there, or even that you might not be able to take? Maybe it's one of those items that once you get to the airport they take out of your baggage because it's not allowed to enter in that country, right? It's not going to, you're not going to be able to take it, or it's too big, right? Is that what you are focusing your life, your efforts, your precious time with, right? So I think that is a very good idea. And he reminds us that if I travel, because he says that it's what is going to be useful there. And especially we need to make sure that we are multiplying, right, these riches that we have, the good things we have, so that we can use that in the next life. So he reminds us that if I don't have that, then that it will impact where I'm going to be in the next life. Just like if you're traveling and you have a lot of money, you might stay in a 5-star hotel. Maybe if you have a smaller budget, maybe you're in a 3-star hotel. Maybe if you have no budget, then you're looking for your friends, for your family in that city, asking somebody for you to just, sleep in their couch or do something like that, because you don't have money to pay for anything better. So you can complain, right? You have to accept something. And if it comes very simple, if you have a very rich friend that has a very nice house, great. But if not, if your friend is simple, then whatever they can provide, right? So remember too, it's this multiplying also affects how our life is going to be, because the life is a continuation, right? So all these earthly experiences, all these incarnations or these births, right, that we have, they're like chapters in a book. And guess what, whatever happens in chapter 2 depends on what happened in chapter 1. Whatever happens in chapter 10 has something to do with one of the previous chapters in that book, right? So everything is connected, and all these births or all these incarnations, all these experiences make your total story, right, of your life. So he says the same applies to man on his arrival in the world of the spirits, for it will depend entirely on what he owns as to where he will go. nor will payment be made in terms of gold. Nobody will ask what they had on earth or what position they occupied, or even if they were a prince or a pauper, right? What then? It's going to be asked. So they will be asked what they have brought with them. Neither worldly goods nor titles will be valued, right? Only the total sum of virtues acquired. So when we're thinking about those talents, let's not think about money, house, how many hours, how many degrees, things that are material. No, let's think about virtues that we have acquired. So the spirit keeps, giving us these ideas and more images and more comparisons to make this really clear. So he says that if it's really moral, what is important, remember that that parable of Lazarus, that was the beggar, and the very rich man on incarnated. One was really rich, the other one was really poor. Once they discarnate, they switch spots, right? They switch places. Now Lazarus is in a very good position, very comfortable, while the bad rich man, right, it's in a very uncomfortable position, right? So in this sense, the spirit tell us that it's possible that this simple worker be as rich or more rich than the prince, right? And it doesn't, you cannot even use this as an excuse. You cannot, being prince or royal, you cannot say that your entrance in the next world was paid for in gold, because that will not work, right? And then the only reply to that justification, if you were to use that excuse, would this person would receive, is that no one may buy a place here. It must be conquered by each person by means of doing good to others. So again, that's the kind of currency, is the charity, is the doing good. Earthly money may buy land, houses, or palaces. But in our world, or in the spiritual world, everything is paid for by means of the qualities of the soul. So the qualities of the soul, it's what is most important. So this is also a question that is there, and I really hope you can think about it, right? Um, and of course, I'm not, it's not a quiz. I'm not asking you to put in the chat or to reply or to say anything like that. What riches you have, if you have this so riches, right? These qualities, these moral qualities, that actually it's our true treasure, and it's something that we can take with us. That is our true property, right? We can really say with all the letters, with, very, in a very assertive way, that is mine, because you conquered that, right? You worked for it, and you conquer, that is your merit, right? So are you rich in these qualities? I hope we can reflect on that too. And the spirit says, then you are welcome and may go to one of the high places where all kinds of happinesses awaits you. But if you are poor in these qualities, then you must go to the lower places, where you'll be treated according to that which you possess. So just as my final slide, and again, remember, if you are just looking at this part of the gospel, go back. I invite you to read the beginning of the chapter. And if you said, oh, I kind of like the message because it's the message of the Christ, but I really didn't like that lady, fear not. Next week somebody else will come and pick it up, and they will do a better job. But remember, here is the key thing: no servant can serve two masters. So who are we following? So we are servants of which master? Because remember, the choice is open. Can I choose whatever I want? Yes, you can. But you cannot expect to choose one thing expecting what that choice is not going to give you, right? So you cannot plant watermelon and expect to harvest oranges or pineapples. If you are actually planting watermelon, you're going to harvest watermelon, right? So you cannot be serving God and expecting a lot of material things, because that's not how it works. And you cannot be serving mammon, right? Or all these material things, and that's what you work for. That's where you put your energies, what you put your efforts, you put your best, time and health and everything, and then expect to be growing spiritually, right? So is really a choice. It is. But once we are making this choice, we need to know exactly what we want. So think first of your purpose. What do you want to do? And then choose, right, which path or which master to follow, right? So I really thank you all for listening. And I really hope that we can be thinking about those things. I cannot tell you how many times I actually listened to or read this chapter, but every time, it's a good reminder for all of us. So I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Anna, so much for your presentation and reflections on this topic today. And it just made me kind of reflecting a lot of things. It reminded me a video that I saw about like a lady. She was just being kind of like interviewed in the street. And I think the question was something like, oh, what do you think is the most important, or some kind of like life advice. And she told that she was married, and she and her husband, they were really wealth, and so they had like a bunch of things, right? So then he got sick and passed away, unfortunately. So for her, she said that like that was the time where she saw that like this doesn't really matter, right? Like what you have. And this talk today kind of like remind of that. And it's really something that we need to be constantly, right, reminding ourselves, because it, especially I feel like here in North America, we are really used for to, like it's so easy access to buy stuff and everything, right? Like material, to be kind of like in that mindset of like I need to achieve more and more.
Right.
And in the end, like you're saying, right, like they are treasures for the spirit, that those are the ones that we will still like keep with us, right?
Right. I think you bring a very good point, that the more materialistic, you're the place you are, because we are influenced by the environment that we live to. So if
Culture,
you
right?
turn on the TV and that is like buy this, have this, or if you talk and the whole expectations from outside, the message from outside to inside is really saying have.
Mhm.
You have to be the one pushing the message from inside out. Be, right? Is what
Yeah.
I am, not what I have, that is important. But that it's so hard. It's hard for us as adults. It's hard for teenagers and for
Yep.
kids. And because then, like, I mean, after you have a certain age, you're like, okay, I don't care much of what people think of me and everything. But the younger you are, you really want to fit in. You want
Mhm.
to please others. So it's really those two masters there, right, pulling you in one direction or the other. So there's more and more self-reflection that you have to see and think, where do I want to be, right? What do I want to do with my life? Is this really just materialistic way of living? Am I really happy? Am I really
Mhm.
fulfilled? Or am I just getting sicker and I'm just really tired and I'm not happy at all because all I do is kind of work and seek things that others are telling me that are important, but I really don't think that that is that much important, you know? So, and really not miss a single moment, right? And so sometimes we really have to be nonconformists, right? So you have to hear the call from outside and really seek inside of yourself and see what you believe and what makes you happy and just strive for that. It's a battle, right? It's
Yes.
not something simple. That's why it's good to reflect and to study and to read, because maybe some weeks is easier but others might be,
Yeah.
there's more temptations there.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And that knowledge that you brought to us from the spirits, that we are actually like, it's not our things, right? Like it's just a resource that we can use while we are here, right? So that's kind of the way I try to remind myself, is that like, okay, yes, I'm working, I'm having, my money, I'm having my things, but like in the end, like the job can be gone and things can change, right? So that's a good way to kind of start on this pathway of detaching ourselves like from those material things, right?
right, exactly, it's all borrowed.
Yes. So we have some comments and questions. Just a moment. So the first one is from Rodrigo Villar. So he asks, how can Spiritism teach us to value what is important in the spiritual world? I know you speak a little bit about that, but if you can just give us.
Yeah, sure. So Spiritism, I think from the tenets, right, from the basic things, like first of all, I think already just telling us that there is a spiritual world and showing, right, through mediumship and a lot of literature that really the life goes on. I think that is one of the main things, because if you really don't believe that there is an afterlife, right, then of course, why not just enjoy everything and collect and
Mhm.
but also that yeah, you have a chance, so there is a reincarnation, but everything that you do in one birth impacts what it's next. So I think another also very important um you know uh another tenet of the Spiritism, and one of the basic principles help us to approach our lives, right? Because all we learn with the Spiritism, like even with this talk, it's very nice to know all these parables and everything, but I guess what we really are seeking is like, what do I do with that I'm learning, right? What is that? How can I apply that to my life? How can that change my life? Or what I can take this from me and I actually will practice that. So I think that because the Spiritism talks and reminds us all the time that we are immortal spirits, we are not just this body, right? So now I am Anna this way, but maybe, my last birth I was not, maybe my next birth. So it really helps us focus on what is more important. So, our nature is of immortal spirit. So we have to seek more of the spiritual things than the material things, because the material things are temporary.
Mhm. And the last one is from Publio, and he says, according to the lecture, do we have to abandon the material world and live only the spiritual world, or we have to conciliate both to help us develop our spirit soul?
I love when the question comes with the answer. So that's very good. Yes, we have to reconcile. So remember, I think this is something that is more stressed, like in the previous sections of that chapter, that, sometimes, and there's even a little book called Money, and I think it's a small one. I think maybe it's from Emmanuel, if I'm not getting the spirit author wrong, but all these riches, all of that we have and we are borrowed, it's from God. So all this providence and all this, that we have, it's good. All these resources are good. So money is not bad, right? Sometimes people even complain like, oh, is the church not going to charge you, or the Spiritist Center? Should I not give money to the Spiritist Center? But how do you expect the Spiritist Center to have a clean bathroom for you to use while you're there, or
Mhm.
to have lights on so that, or to have internet so that you can transmit the thing? So, we live in on this earth, right? We're incarnated here, so here's where we have to learn. So we should not, the spirits tell us that we should not put more. We already have enough challenges in our lives, so we
Yep.
shouldn't be putting more difficulties in our lives, right? So it's not that if I can have nice things, I should not have them, right?
Mhm.
It's not that I would come here with my ragged clothes or something, right? No, that's not the truth. But the problem is when that becomes the whole focus of my existence, right?
Mhm.
All my energy is in the way that I dress, or not in the way that I am, but the way that I dress, or it's in what I have, right? So then I'm neglecting other parts of my life. It's all about the focus, and all about balance, right?
Mhm.
Of
Yep.
course, we live in this material world. Nobody should be going hungry or living outside and not having a house. That's not what we are advocating at all. But what we're saying is, once we have these resources, when you have material things, try to share, or try to do the best use of them that you can. And like you said, try to detach yourself so that doesn't become who you are or
Yep.
what you are. But that is just an accessory that you have. It's part of your life, but it's not your whole life, because in truth, you are an immortal spirit. And the only thing you're going to take from here, it's what you really are, all your moral virtues.
Oh, thank you so much once again for your time here and for all this great talk that we had today,
It's always
and reflections.
always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for the participation in the chat. And now we will move on to the preparation for tonight's spiritual treatment. PES is the transfusion of spiritual energy with the goal of assisting with our physical, emotional, and mental balance. PESs help us to restore a state of harmony and peace by replacing negative energy with healthy and positive energy. In order to receive the best benefits from PESs, please follow the audio instructions or remain in prayer. You may close your eyes to help mentalization. During the PES, the water that you set aside will also be absorbing the spiritual energy that your family and you can benefit from. We will now make a prayer in preparation for the PES, which will also be our closing prayer as well. So I invite you, everyone, to join me in this prayer. Let's close our eyes once again and elevate our thoughts to our Master Jesus and to the friendly spirits that are here with us today. Thank you, Lord, for this great talk today. May everyone start applying what they learned today with Anna in their daily lives. And may we receive also all the benefits of the spiritual treatment that will start soon. We also ask for your protection and blessings for the week that we still have ahead. And may you be with us today and always. So be it.
Let us now prepare ourselves for the moment of the passes and the magnetization of water. Let's now calm our hearts, breathing in and out. Pay attention to your body. Focus on your breath, and let yourself be carried by this energy. Let your thoughts pass by without judging them. Let them flow. Allow this light to be the beacon that guides you, and allow these words to penetrate your energy. Make each word an anchor of gratitude faith and trust. With the purpose of healing, which takes away my faith, healing every feeling of separation, of pain, let it all dissolve in this moment, leaving only love, gratitude, and trust. We ask God for the presence of our guardian angel and the friendly spirits who welcome us into this enlightened environment of our Spiritist Center. We open our plexus of love and forgiveness by mentalizing a light surrounding our hearts. Find a quiet and comfortable place to begin the mentalization process. Remove all worries from your thoughts. We ask that during the pass you breathe slowly and deeply. Let your body relax and surrender yourself to a deep meditation. Calmly imagine divine energies in soft and colorful light surrounding you in an environment of peace and spiritual warmth. Entrusting God with your most intimate desires, raise your thoughts to Jesus and the emissaries of the spiritual environment. The path begins with the cleansing of your soul. Imagine a waterfall of crystal clear water pouring over us, removing all the feelings that keep you away from faith and trust. Feel the energy of this water bathing you and deeply breathe in, feeling peace and harmony. Allow this water to wash away all the impurities and spiritual larvae, washing away all the sorrows and resentments, any feelings of hatred and revenge that hold us back and cause us harm, not only from this life, but past ones as well. Now visualize spiritual doctors around you, applying magnetic cleansing passes, sanitizing your spiritual body of all sadness and negative energy. Mentalize these negative thoughts and feelings being washed away, evaporating from your soul, like water evaporating into thin air, and being carried far away from your mind. Surround yourself with the faith that bathes your being, bringing clarity and lucidity, rebalancing every cell in your body. May the water envelop all pain and bring the clarity of opportunity that chooses peace. The answer arises in our hearts, freeing us from all evil and freeing all whom we have caused evil into and who have caused us evil, washing away all the connections that bind us. Even though we may not understand, we are freeing ourselves from all that causes us harm. Feel this cleansing penetrate your soul and release. Now that we are spiritually cleansed, imagine yourself surrounded by the light of love from the hands of Jesus. At this moment, sing words of faith and gratitude, being faithful to the light that exists in me, planted by the zealous Father. Imagine the sunlight that surrounds and enraptures, freeing us from the chains of everything that holds us down, strengthening your faith. Allow yourself to trust in this light, surrender to it, involved in pleasant feelings and feeling relieved to receive the strengthening lights. Mentalize your spiritual mentors now applying divine light for the strengthening of your mind and your emotions, leaving you feeling emotionally revitalized. Let us now mentalize the magnetization of this water. May we mentalize all the friendly spirits, magnetizing this water and filling it with everything that our bodies, minds, and soul need, so that it may be of help to us when we drink it after the Pass. Thank you, God.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We will be back next Tuesday here on Spiritism Canada and Continental Concafras Americas at 8:30 p.m. East, and next Wednesday on Kardec Radio at 8 p.m. East. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube from Spiritism Canada and Spiritist Group Paths of Light. Have a good night.
Come on, my friend. Come to the light. Here with our heart and soul, let's follow Jesus Christ. Let us preach the peace. Let us preach the peace. Let us preach the love. And this world already wonderful will be much more. Get up. Look at the sky. In the earth where the flowers bloom with sunshine. Let's hold our hands and be together on this road. Then we take peace and love and spread it to the world. We'll fight, laugh, and shout out. Show it to the world. Always follow the footsteps of our roads that I show. So we see the peace like that. It was shining really bright and bright.